long to get all of the emeralds in that version. Which was annoying, actually.
That is annoying. All right, on to the worst fucking level in the game. Maybe they made the palette a little less... Nope, they didn't. I hate this fucking level. I am like the last person who will bitch about like aesthetic because I just hate that. But God, they could. Oh, this is such a fucking ugly level.
This level really reminds me of.
I'm sorry, Morning Song, you cut off. What did you say?
This level really reminds me of Zool as far as its color scheme goes.
God, yes. Like I say, you can definitely tell these guys were Amiga folks before they started making Genesis games.
It's extremely British.
Yes. And then they started making, you know, Genesis games because the hardware isn't that dissimilar.
As I understand, from the point of view of most Amiga people, the Genesis was a more powerful Amiga, but with slightly less good sound.
Yeah, there was very limited sample playback, so unless you like were really, really good at making FM synth voices, you probably didn't have a whole lot of options for getting good sound. So, like, for example... Yeah, like, someone like Matt Furness could do a pretty good job of stuff, and he was... For these, you know, Psygnosis kind of guys, he was basically their Yuzo Koshiro, but a lot of other people just,
Matt Furness and Yuzo Koshiro are basically the people who were really good at the Genesis sound chip.
Yeah, like, it is kind of a shame that the dude whose name, I forget, Kulsbeck, who did the soundtrack to the Turrican games, like, he actually wound up being pretty good at it when he actually was making soundtracks, but there were like one, maybe two games that he's worked on, Mega Turrican being one of them. So I don't know if he's done anything besides Mega Turrican. And I'm not gonna look up on Project 2612 to check.
You guys may as well be like speaking, I don't know, Sanskrit or something, because I don't understand a fucking word of it.
Music good.
Music good. Okay, see, Goggle Bob speaks my language.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a dude who, as a hobby, makes music for the Genesis on occasion, you know, I have opinions on Genesis music.
That's fine. Good. That's fine.
Yeah. Genesis.
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
So where does the Toe Jam and Earl soundtrack fall into that?
Oh, it's not like the most like technical fancy achievement, but the dude who did it, whose name was like John Baker or something, I think, like, dude was very consciously inspired by Herbie Hancock in making the soundtrack, and as a big fan of Herbie Hancock myself, and especially Headhunters era Herbie Hancock, I have to respect that a lot.
So can somebody tell me what a key change is? Because I've been trying to figure out that for months
now. So basically there is sort of a note that in general, like when you have a song that everything is kind of going to want to go back to, at least in sort of typical harmonies, especially ones used in most Western pop songs. Every so often that will change, and that's sort of what makes a key change, is when the note that it seems like the song wants to go to is different at a different part of the song.
Alright, like, explain it by referencing a song that I actually care about, which means none of the songs anybody on this call likes but me.
An Offspring song.
I think
so Rancid.
Yeah, I think like in Supersonic, in Supersonic they go up like a half step on like the final round or two of the chorus. But it's been a little while since I've listened to it, so I may be talking out of my ass here. In any case, it is exactly the sort of song that if they don't do it, they ought to, in my opinion.
Sure. I feel like I'm missing something here. Nope, I'm not. I'm good. It's all good. Alright. One of the things that pisses me off about this game is that there are loops in it, but they are only scripted. And I mean, it makes perfect sense because like, you know, you couldn't really, like, with the sort of game this is, you couldn't really do loops. but damn it, I like loops.
Yeah, it was profoundly upsetting to me as a kid that there were no functional loops.
Yeah.
Like that you just sat around and watched loops happen to you.
Yeah, like didn't get to you never decided to go through a loop.
Yeah, though I will say that while loops are really cool, they are probably one of the greatest curses for Sonic, because pretty much every Sonic game is expected to have loops in them, even the ones where they don't fit really well, like this one.
Well, like the entire like bouncy stage is like an idea that really does not work in isometric 3D, but but they did it anyways.
Well, I mean, it's sort of surprising because the loops in like the Master System games are like not quite scripted, but
Awfully
they
close.
like when you right, like there's a little bit of control you have in them, but it's very limited, and they still put them in like every single game anyway, at least past the first one. And they don't really work, but they're more functional than they are in this game for whatever awful reason.
Well, this game makes perfect sense they're not functional, because this game is definitely not a typical Sonic game.
No, it is not.
It's a weird,
It is-
freaky Sonic game.
Right. It is basically Sonic and the Black Knight lore.
I will say that I will take a completely scripted loop over ones that aren't scripted but don't quite work, like, say, the ones in Sonic 2006.
Oh, yeah, like, at least you don't fall out of the loop and plunge to your death into the abyss. That is true.
It's totally fine for scripted elements to be in video games, but, like, ideally, you barely realize they're scripted. Like, you might know on some intrinsic level, but, like, if you're going to give me a scripted moment, make it cool enough that I'm just like, whoa, awesome!
Yeah,
So
right,
that I
like
don't
that
even
bit
realize
when you're running down the building in Speed Highway in Sonic Adventure, you know, like that's sort of scripted. I mean, certainly the camera is, but it's cool enough and unobtrusive enough that you don't really mind it.
Yeah, no, it's because you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
But
shit,
you're also
this is
still
awesome.
kind of doing something during that
Yeah.
scene.
If anything, it sort of helps to introduce this next segment where you are very quickly running down a building, and like in a second, they actually give you some control over it.
Yeah, like, right, like, well, Sonic games take your control away a lot, for that matter, but like it's always in the it's always to serve some sort of like greater purpose.
Yeah, it's like those.
Going fast.
Of going fast, yes, but like Deptford, actually, of all people, wrote an excellent post in the Sonic thread on Talking Time about spectacle in Sonic games.
Yes.
Which is incredibly important.
Good. Yes.
Like, it doesn't really matter that, like you see a lot of people like whining about Sonic games saying, oh, you just have to hold right and you're not actually doing anything at certain points. And while that might be technically true, it doesn't really
matter. It's cool.
Because it's cool as shit.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything to watch a movie and everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, like...
Right.
Like, you are allowed to, like, have moments in your video game that literally everybody will succeed at if those moments are fucking awesome. And Sonic, like, when it's, like, doing, like, excellently, has, like, a really good read on how to do that. Like when Sonic is firing on all cylinders, it does extremely well in that regard.
Yeah. Like, even the Genesis games that everyone loves absolutely do that.
Yeah, no,
and it is not a problem.
There are loads of portions in Genesis games that, like, are basically impossible to fail at. One of my favorite examples is, like, in Green Hill Zone. There's a chunk where it'll just throw you, like, super high into the air, and, like, there's a ton of rings, like, just in that area, just waiting for you to grab them. Because it knows everybody who's playing it will just be holding right, like it ain't no thing. And that's fine, because you're supposed to be just enjoying that segment.
Yeah, like, if anything, it's like, yeah, it's to be fun, and it's to tell you, okay, you want to go fast?
Let's
roll
go
downhill.
fast.
Yeah. Like, I feel like one of the biggest problems in getting people to understand Sonic 1, and Lord knows I'm trying to fix that, but Yeah, I was, what was I saying? I was saying, like, that if you're used to the spin dash, Sonic 1 is really difficult to parse, because there are all of these points where really the best way to get around is to let the game sort of take over by rolling. And, you know, that's mostly, like we're saying, a fairly scripted sequence. But in the process, usually they're also doing a little thing where you get to learn about, like, oh, this is how you defeat this enemy. Oh, here's what this obstacle does. And it's a great way for the game to show you that that's happening, while also, you know, making sure that you don't, like, just run into it head first like everyone complains that Sonic games do.
Okay, there we go. Which Flicky is your least favorite? Because all of them suck, but the red ones suck the worst.
Yes, the red ones do suck the worst, especially in this level, because they just hop around in the exact same spot where you lose them, which is usually a platform where, like, spikes are popping right out of.
Now, granted, this is the director's cut version where all the Flicky's behaviors have been changed. Like, the green ones no longer actively avoid you, for starters. But just the fact that the red ones are jumping just still makes them the most annoying.
Yes, yes. Like, they don't get close to you quickly enough if that behavior has been changed in this game to make a difference.
So the Flickies have individual names, or are they just the red one?
They're the red one, the blue one, the purple one, and the motherfucker. But if I have to give them names, I'm going to do so right now then. The blue one's name is Blue, because I'm extremely creative. The red one's name is Eat a Bag of Dicks. The green one's name is Fuck You, I Hope You Die. And the purple one's name is Purple.
There you go.
Their parents, they made their parents very happy when they were born.
No, I'd say the red one, I'd say the green one was like one of those ones where like the kid like said his first words and his mom's response was, "You were a mistake." Oh god, this boss. I can't remember if I hate this boss or if I like this boss. Not so much 3D definitely sort of works in our favor here though, because like you can just like sort of like always attack him from behind and never like be at risk of being hit by the claws. I say
the shadow for this boss is really
like
annoying.
Idiots.
The fact that the shadow, that the pod and the claws have shadows but the arms do not it's messing me up.
I've never noticed that before.
I might have to look away.
Even as a lad, I noticed that. Does that mean I'm smarter than you, Miyuki? Spoiler alert. Yes,
Maybe. Oh man.
Yeah. I was actually listening to my Sonic 3 Complete Let's Play recently because I'm linking into it all over the place in Mania because it provides context for some levels and stuff. And one of my favorite things is that in the very beginning, I managed to trick Mars Dragon into basically I just fooled her into thinking that I was starting the Let's Play later when I'd already started it.
Oh yeah, that was a classic
and
beat
immediately
moment.
Fanboy goes, I never assumed Drunk B would ever outsmart Mars. This is like a very dark moment.
When was that? Back in 2016?
That was 2017, so that was just last year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Back in last year.
Back in last year. The halcyon days.
Yes.
I don't think anyone will ever refer to 2017 as such.
No, that's extremely accurate. It's like, as far as like worst years ever go, 2017's up there.
It definitely is in my book.
Yeah, no, 2017.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of nice things to say about 2017, and the main one I'm coming up with is that it had the grace to end.
Yeah, had the decency to stop.
Hey, that was the release of Sonic Mania.
I mean, okay, yeah, sure, that's pretty cool.
Actually, yeah, a lot of great games came out in 2017.
We got some
That's
good
about
fucking
it.
video games.
We got Nier, we got Mario, we got the Switch.
There was,
we got the Switch.
Zelda.
We got the Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo will save us. Fucking Wow, brains already.
Yes.
Fuck, I died
2017 was like late 80s nostalgia, like on steroids, in as much as we elected the shambolic, rotting corpse of Reagan to president, and Nintendo was in charge of the world.
Yeah, somebody elected that guy from all those 80s movies, like Home Alone 2.
Why didn't Ready Player One come out last year then?
It wasn't ready.
Yeah, it wasn't ready. Player One.
Yes. Yeah, it was still in the scripting
I
thing.
just
It was known as
figured out how to
Unready
game the
Player
system
One.
here.
Oh, that's beautiful, Pete. That is
I
beautiful.
apologize. I should have called it the Funko Pop movie.
I can't believe that tweet took off. I'm still slightly upset about it.
I mean, isn't that like what everybody was calling it?
Like, when I made that tweet, I didn't even realize they had a Ready Player One Funko Pop line.
Obviously they did. They have a Funko Pop line for everything. I'm literally like looking at the only Funko Pop I own right now.
Which is what?
I always try to forget that they exist, frankly, and I'm surprisingly successful at it most of the time.
One of my wife's